I figured we would do for fun is Joey and I would break down we do a Senior Bowl mock draft. Basically, anyone we know Nick Bosa is going to go number one in real life, but since he's not the Senior Bowl, he can't go number one. And I've only got a few players with first-round grades. The top Senior Bowl prospect on my board is Will Grier. Dalton Risner, he's the number 2 Senior Bowl player on my board, the Kansas State right tackle. He has small arms, but he can move to guard, and he's a communications manager, so he can play center. He is the top non-QB. And the other player you could pick at number 1 is Zach Allen out of Boston College. He is available. He's in the Senior Bowl, so you could pick him at number 1 overall in our Senior Bowl mock draft. Jalen Ferguson, edge, Louisiana Tech, is also available. He's a first-round player on my board. So Zach Allen and Jalen Ferguson are both available if you're the Cardinals here at number 1, or you could go Bo Benchuel. Chris Boyd's available, Anthony Johnson, Amani Uwayari. They're in the top 34. I don't have first-round grades on them, but they're all playing in the Senior Bowl, so you could pick those players at number 1 with the Arizona Cardinals. So what do you want to do here at number 1 with the Cardinals? Well,
Okay, read these names again because...
Okay. I'll actually display the names.
Name that I do remotely recognize.
I'll actually post the visuals. I'm not going to read the QB names because the Cardinals are not taking QB at 1. Dalton Risner, the Kansas State tackle. Zach Allen, Boston College edge. Bo Benchuel, the Wisconsin guard. And Jalen Ferguson, the edge for Louisiana Tech. Those are guys I have round 1 grades on that are going to be in the Senior Bowl.
I'll go Zach Allen. I like Zach Allen.
So Zach Allen is the first pick in our Senior Bowl mock draft. And I'll be picking for the 49ers at number 2. And I'm looking at the 49ers. They need another edge, so they go Jalen Ferguson out of Louisiana Tech at number 2. So we open this thing up with 2 edges going 1 and 2 in our Senior Bowl mock draft. And I will actually type this in a Word document. Number 3, though, is the New York Jets. And the New York Jets, I'm guessing you're either going to go Dalton Risner, Bo Benchuel, or Anthony Johnson. This is going to be pretty interesting, though, to see what route you take with the Jets in this mock draft, to say the least.
I'll go with Anthony Johnson. I mean, Sam Darnold, I mean, they've got to get something for him to throw the ball to. So it's... And for me, it's kind of a no-brainer that.
All right. So Anthony Johnson goes 3rd overall. To the New York Jets. I'm also clicking on Jerry Tillery out of Notre Dame because he's not going to be in the Senior Bowl. Julian Love's not going to be in there either. So I am clicking on a few names that could help speed things up. And number 4 is the Oakland Raiders. So this is tough because the Raiders, the top 2 players on the board are QBs, but they don't really need offensive line help. I guess I have to go with Chris Boyd out of Texas at number 4. I mean, he does have some good coverage, some great tape, so I guess we'll go with him at number 4. And that leaves us with number 5, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And who are all their options?
Well, they're Dalton Risner, the Kansas State tackle's the top non-QB on the board. He can play guard or center as well as tackle. Bo Benchuel is also available if they're looking for a right guard, the Wisconsin guard. The Penn State corner is there. Max Sharping is there. Elton Jenkins, Mississippi State offensive lineman's there. Chris Lidstrom, Boston College lineman's there. So there are some linemen they could go with. There's multiple linemen they could take.
Yeah, so I like Benchuel. at that point. I like Berkey and Risner. I mean, I'm fans of both those guys. But at the moment, Vince Whale is, I think he's the better pick at this point in time. He's a legitimate first round, prospect.
Boban Schwale is a legitimate first-round prospect. So the New York Giants are on the clock at number 6. I should give them Will Greer, but I'm also tempted to go Dalton Risner because Dalton Risner had a good game of tape versus Montez Sweat. But I'm going to go Will Greer because he's the best player on the board and because Kyle Lauletta got demoted to third string and he got arrested, and he just doesn't have his stuff together, and Will Greer is just the top player on our board. So a top senior on our board. So Will Greer to the Giants at number 6.
Who's number 7?
The Jaguars.
Oh, boy. And who's available?
Drew Lock is available. He's the only QB available, but Dalton Risner is also available.
Oh, yeah, we're going Drew Lock.
Oh, yeah, Daniel Jones out of Duke is available, but we're going Drew Lock. All right. That brings us to number 8, who is the Detroit Lions. Dalton Risner really doesn't help the Lions at number 8, so we're going to go with the Penn State corner, Amani Oruwariye, because I feel like he helps to a point.
He helps diversify the naming process.
Yes, we're on the clock at 9. The top player on the board is Dalton Risner.
Who is it at 9? Who is it at 9?
It's the Buffalo Bills. They're on the clock at number 9. I'm just typing in some of the names.
I think Risner. I don't think those receivers were taking him.
So Dalton Risner is your selection at 9. And then that means the Oakland Raiders, Chris Boyd. I'm just typing in the names. Tampa Bay went Boban Schwale, I believe. I'm just maybe Ben Schwale, but I'm just typing in the names because Will Greer, QB, West Virginia. Jacksonville Jaguars. Drew Lock, QB. And then number 8, I went with on that corner. And then Dalton Risner went to the Bills at 9 as a right tackle. So, and I think the best player on the board is Daniel Jones out of Duke, so he would round out the top 10 for Denver. And that means the Denver Broncos get Daniel Jones out of Duke, who is playing in the Senior Bowl, by the way. So I'm going to click on the Daniel Jones player. And yes, that's that. The Bengals are on the clock at 11. The top player on my board is Northern Illinois offensive tackle Max Sharping. But there are some other linemen on the board. Michael Dieter, Ross Pierschbacher, David Edwards, Michael Jackson, Jaquan Johnson, Juan Thornhill, Austin Bryant, the Clemson.
Let's just give him Michael Jackson because I want to make fun of him some more.
So we're torturing the Bengals with Michael Jackson. Okay. I'm double checking right now to see if Michael Jackson's on the North team, because I want to double check and make sure I have the correct data. Because I saw I'm pretty certain he is, but I'm double checking before I finalize that pick, because Jaquan Johnson's in the Senior Bowl. I've got to make sure Michael Jackson's on the North team and not just a Shrine Game player, because he was in the Shrine Game. Ooh, Michael Jackson's not in the Senior Bowl. I did not. So you'll have to pick someone else then. Michael Jackson's not in the Senior Bowl. He was only in the Shrine Game, so you'll have to pick another.
Johnny.
We'll give him Jaquan Johnson, his Miami teammate at safety.
That's close enough to Johnny.
So Jaquan Johnson goes to the Bengals at number 11. That means I'm up with the Packers at 12, and I'm weighing my options here because I have to pick the right player. Top players on the board are linemen. The Packers really don't need any linemen unless they cut Brian Bulaga. So this is a very precarious situation for me to be in with the Packers. Draymond Jones, no. I'm going to go with...
Packers fans need a beer.
Yeah.
After this off season, like...
I'm going to go Isaiah Buggs at Alabama, or I could go with Chris Lidstrom, the Boston College guard, but I'm going to go Isaiah Buggs to replace Mohammed Wilkerson, and I'm going to pray this pick doesn't get me stoned by Lisa after the podcast, because that's all I can do is pray that this pick does not get me stoned by Lisa. Isaiah Buggs to Green Bay.
Well, Lisa's been wanting to stone you for years. What are you talking about? Like, cutting your hair was probably only slightly, less likely to get you stoned. If you mess this up, I mean, it's right back to, look over your shoulder.
All right. Well, there are these north-south links right next to each link. I did not see that. That's on me. Yeah. All right, so you're up at number 13 with the Miami Dolphins, and all the QBs are gone. So this is a very tough situation to be in.
By all the QB, you mean all one of them?
Well, all the QBs are gone. You could reach for Jared Stidham here, but Daniel Jones is gone. Kyler Murray and Dwayne Haskins are not in this QB thing, unfortunately. So you could go Max Sharping, Northern Illinois offensive tackle. He can play both tackle spots. Juwan James is a free agent. You could also go Elton Jenkins if you think Miami needs a new center. Chris Lidstrom, the Boston College guard, is there. Michael Dieter, Ross Pierschbacher, David Edwards. There's a lot of linemen available. If you're Miami, you could go with one of the linemen.
I'll go with center, because when was the last time their center was healthy? It was like 2007.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. Which center do you want?
Pouncey, I mean, he hasn't been healthy since high school.
Mike Pouncey's on the Chargers now, but they got rid of him and they replaced him with Daniel Kilgore. Pouncey was actually healthy this year, and Kilgore got injured.
Really? They replaced him with Kilgore? Booker isn't even an actual center.
Yeah.
He's a freaking guard. Holy crap, give them a center. They can't keep them healthy. They can't keep other positions out of the position.
Which one do you want? There's there's a few guys that can play center. There's Ross Pierschbacher, the Alabama player. Michael Dieter can play center, even though it's his third skill position. And Elton Jenkins, a guy, Mississippi State center, who's really good on tape. I have him at 41. He's the highest rated center on the board. Elgton Jenkins. He's gonna be
Elton John.
Elton Jenkins. We'll put Elton John Jenkins.
Whatever.
All right. So Elgton John Jenkins. Joey's christened his middle name to be John because Elgton Jenkins is his full name, but Joey's christened his middle name to be John, like Elton John. That is canon now. So if you hear Joey call him Elton John during the draft, now you know why. So that brings us to 14, the Atlanta Falcons. And this is not an easy situation for the Falcons to be in because the Falcons Mitch Hyatt. I thought Mitch Hyatt would be in the Senior Bowl, but he's not. So I can click him off the board. But the Falcons are in a tough situation here. I don't think Max Sharping is the right player for them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draft Chris Lidstrom as a right guard for the Atlanta Falcons at number 14, because I feel like he's a better fit for what Atlanta wants to do than Max Sharping. Even though I have Sharping as the highest rated player on my board, I'm going to go Chris Lidstrom for the Falcons at 14 because I think he's the better fit. So that brings us to number 15, the Washington Redskins. They could use some interior linemen.
With Washington Redskins, I know exactly who to go.
Who do you want to give?
Bill Gates. Because they need a new owner and they need one badly.
Okay.
And Bill Gates is technically a senior. Might be a senior citizen. He's a senior.
All right, so there's no Bill Gates in this draft, but I'm looking to see who it could
No, but you said this is a senior mock draft.
It's a Senior Bowl mock draft, but Bill Gates is not the Senior Bowl.
No, but he is a senior.
Yes, but he's not a Senior Bowl prospect.
He is a prospect. He's a senior owner. He owns Microsoft. He's a senior owner.
Plus, Bill Gates would buy the Seahawks. He wouldn't buy the Redskins because the Seahawks are in Seattle, where Microsoft is located.
True, but this is a draft, so we are drafting Bill Gates to the Redskins.
I'm gonna give them the player that resembles Bill Gates the most from facial appearance. All right.
I don't think there's a nerd in there.
There's the Wisconsin lineman, and there's David Sills, the West Virginia receiver.
Let's go with Sills because I guess Sills would be the nerdiest.
I love how you just point that out. David Sills, the 5th, West Virginia. So he goes 15th overall. And that brings us to number 16, which is the Carolina Panthers. They need offensive tackle help. So they get Max Sharping out of Northern Illinois here. Top player on our board, finally comes off the board here. And Matt Kalil just has not been able to stay healthy. So they replace Matt Kalil and they get Max Sharping, who can play left tackle or right tackle. So if Kalil is kept, you move Sharping to right tackle, and if he's not, you can release him. But either way, he's the second tackle drafted, and he can move into left tackle if Khalil gets injured again. And I really like Max Sharping. He had great tape versus Florida State's Byron Burns. And now your Browns are on the clock at 17. So this is really interesting. Michael Dieter, Wisconsin. Pierce Bacher, David Edwards, Wisconsin, are the top players on the board. Juan Thornhill's the top defensive player on the board at safety. Luca Dennis is the second best defensive player on the board. TJ Edwards is there. Yadni Kajust is there. Sutton Smith is another edge you could get. I don't know if Michael Jordan is in the Senior Bowl, the Ohio State center / guard, but if he is, he's definitely someone you could add potentially.
I'm gonna go with the top edge because, and here's why. This is as I've told you, I've been paying attention because I haven't been watching a lot of tape. I've been paying a lot of attention to pro football, and jarring statistics here. Greg Williams ran Larry Ogunjobi and Myles Garrett into the ground. Literally. Last year, with Ogunjobi played the most snaps out of any defensive tackle in the NFL. He played almost 1,000 snaps last year. Myles Garrett had the second most snaps of any defensive end in the NFL last year.
And Sutton Smith's got the body of an outside linebacker, so he could play outside linebacker, or you put him an outside linebacker, or.
So at this point, everybody's saying, well, the Browns didn't have pass rushers because their two best pass rushers were gassed by week 10. Okay. So I had to give them best defense lineman available. That's just how it is. They cannot go through another season with their two best defensive linemen having a combined nearly 1,700 snaps between them. That's just not sustainable.
So we're going Sutton Smith edge out of Northern Illinois, and he can be used as a depth player behind Myles Garrett and Ogba, or he can be used as a outside linebacker. But we'll list him as an edge for now, as Northern Illinois back-to-back first-round picks. And number 18 belongs to the Vikings. And this is a tough situation for the Vikings to be in, but I'm going to go with – I'm weighing my options here. I'm seeing who's available. I don't want to go lineman for the Vikings. I'm going to go with Juan Thornhill out of Virginia. I really love his tape. And he gives the Minnesota Vikings another safety next to Harrison Smith. That brings us to number 19, the Tennessee Titans. You are on the clock with the Titans.
And, well, that's nice, but, I mean, who's there?
There are some linemen on the board. There's the Wisconsin and Alabama linemen. Dieter, David Edwards, Ross Pierschbacher. I mean, Edwards is a tackle. The Titans have two good tackles. They are losing Quentin Spain, their left guard. Pierschbacher could play that position. You could put Michael Dieter in at left guard, I guess. If you want to go defense, you could get well, they have Kevin Byard and they have Jonathan Cyprien, so they don't really need a safety. They don't need an inside linebacker. They drafted an inside linebacker in the first round last year. Just looking at what's available.
I'll go with Dieter. I mean, best player on board.
Michael Dieter, the Titans then. All right. And Pittsburgh Steelers at number 20. This is a precarious situation to be in, but I'm going to reach a little bit. I'm going to go TJ Edwards out of Wisconsin. So we're going to go with another Wisconsin Badger here. I have TJ Edwards graded a little bit higher on my board than Tavon Coney. I know Coney is in the Senior Bowl, but I want to make sure that TJ Edwards is too before I lock this pick in. Edwards, TJ Edwards. I want to make sure my TJ Edwards did get a Senior Bowl invite, I believe. He was Alec Ingold, Wisconsin, Michael Dieter, Wisconsin, Bo Benchuel, Wisconsin, David Edwards, Wisconsin. I do not see, that's weird. I do not see David Edwards on this list, nor do I see, So I guess I have to reach for Coney. Interesting. So David Edwards comes off our board, even though, and so does TJ Edwards. So TJ Edwards, who is 63rd on our board, is not going to be on the board, and that means that Tavon Coney is the player I'd have to pick for Tavon Coney out of Notre Dame is the player I'd have to pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 20. And that brings us to 21, which I believe is Seattle's pick.
Yeah, okay. Who's there?
I'm double checking on 21 for a second here because it's not loading the pages. So I'm just double checking the ticker at the top of the page because I don't remember who's at 21. And I could go to Tankathon. I could probably type it in and get the thing up quicker. Okay, so Wes Hills out of Slippery Rock is in the Senior Bowl. I didn't add him to the draft game, but he did have a good Senior Bowl week. And Yodny Cajuste would be off our board as well because he's not playing in the Senior Bowl, so I'm going to have to remove him from the board. The West Virginia tackle. So I'm just seeing. And I forgot to update the Washington Redskins record. I left that at 5-3 like an irresponsible imbecile. So I'll have to update that after the show. And Pittsburgh's 21 is Seattle. So Seattle is officially on the clock, followed by Baltimore, followed by Houston, followed by the Raiders with Chicago's pick. So that's the next four on the board. And Pierce Bocker's available. Luca Dennis out of Boston College is available. He's playing in the Senior Bowl. I have a second-round grade on him. So Luca Dennis is probably your best bet here, considering he is one of two second-round players still on the board. I mean, Luca Dennis is available, and Ross Pierschbacher's available. And those are the only two second-round talents still on the board. You want a center or a safety?
Pierschbacher.
All right, so Seattle goes Pierschbacher. He can play center or one of the guard positions. So the Baltimore Ravens, I'm probably going to go Luca Dennis here unless I see a better player that fits what I want to do. I'm looking to see who I can get. Andre Dillard if I want to tackle. Daryl Williams. The Oklahoma guards are available, but Alvarez is not available. The Oklahoma center, Alvarez. So the Oklahoma guards, I don't know if Daryl Williams out of Mississippi State is available, but I'm double checking right now just to make sure. Montez Sweat. Oh, Montez Sweat's available, and I clicked him off the game anyway, but he's still available. He was number 12 on my board. So I'm taking him here because if I had known he was available, so I clicked him off the board by accident, and he was available. God, I'm such an asshole. Letting him slip to the Ravens. I am really an asshole for that because he was 12. He's the 4th best player on our board. I just assumed he wasn't available, and I let him slip to the Ravens. I'm an asshole for that. But Joey could go on a rant with millions of other reasons why I'm an asshole. But Montez...
But I don't have that type of time, so let's move on.
Yeah. That brings us to the Houston Texans. The best player on the board is Luka Dennis, but if you don't want him, you could go Andre Dillard out of Washington State, the Washington State left tackle, or you could go Ben Powers out of Oklahoma and give the Texans a guard. I know you're a huge Ben Powers fan, and I feel like that's the direction you're going here at 23.
Yeah. Yeah, with Powers, absolutely.
The Oakland Raiders, we will give them Luka Dennis, and we'll make sure he is off the board. So all of the round 2 players are officially off the board here. So all the round 2 guys are officially off the board. We're at the point where we got 25 through 28. I think the Eagles are up at 25. I'm double checking though before we get past this point of no return. Andre Dillard, Amadi is not available, so I'm looking to see who is available for picking players. Rodney Anderson's not available, so I'm just seeing who's available here.
Just give him the Dillard for my next one.
Eagles, Andre Dillard. All right, so Andre Dillard goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's the Eagles, the Colts, the Raiders, and the Chargers, and then Joey can pick the AFC runner-up at 29. We'll put the Chiefs in at 29. And we put the Patriots in at 29 because Joey picked the Chiefs. I guess we could put the Rams in at 30, and then the Chiefs in at 31 and the Saints in at 32, I guess. We'll go based on that. So Washington State's Andre Dillard goes to the Eagles. Colts are up next. And this is not an easy position for the Colts to be in here, considering that Andre Dillard was the best player on the board. He's now off the board. And the top player on the board is Drew Sarnia, the guard. I'm going to go Jalen Jelks, the Oregon edge rusher for the Colts, because Colts need defensive help. So they get Jalen Jelks, who is the 2nd best player on my board behind Drew Sarnia, the guard at 26.
Sarnia.
The Raiders get Sarnia. You want to give them Sarnia or Kelvin Harmon? They do need a receiver. The Raiders do need receiver help.
Yeah, but Sarnia sounds cooler.
All right,
like
so
Sarnia.
So Drew Sarnia, the Raiders get Drew Sarnia. Yeah. All right, so this puts me in a very precarious position with the Chargers. I know they don't need receiver help, so I'm looking to see what other options I can give them. Myles Gaskin's not in the Senior Bowl, so I can't click on him or Damian Harris. Deebo Samuel is in the Senior Bowl, but we're going to go Nasir Adderley out of Delaware. We're going to give the Chargers a 2nd safety to pair with Derwin James, and we're going to go Nasir Adderley out of Delaware. So, yeah, Delaware's safety is a 1st-round pick in our Senior Bowl mock draft. That's just how much of a drop-off there is in talent in this draft. And the Patriots are on the clock here at number 29 because you have the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And the top player on the board is Kelvin Harmon, but there's also Jalen Smith and Deebo Samuel. I'm checking to see which guys are Senior Bowl players and which guys aren't. Deebo Samuel had 100 yards against Clemson, and it's worth mentioning. Deebo Samuel did have a 100-yard game.
Yeah, I said Deebo.
All right, so awesome.
Deebo.
And Deebo Samuel becomes the second first-round receiver drafted. And this is what happened, or third actually, because David Sills was wide receiver 2 in this thing, Anthony Johnson. So Deebo becomes the third first-round receiver drafted, even with all the and I'm seeing what else I can do with the Rams. Jarrett Stidham, no. Gardner Minshew, no. Martez Ivy is not in the Senior Bowl. So we're going to go Caleb McGarry out of Washington. He's the right tackle for the Washington Huskies. I feel like that is a very good pick for the Rams. I know they gave Rob Havenstein a contract extension, but I don't think he's a long-term asset on the Rams. And honestly, Caleb McGarry just fits what the Rams want to do as far as team, as far as personnel goes. So we're going to give them Caleb McGarry unless you've got an issue with that. So that means the Chiefs are on the clock. There's a bunch of receivers you could give them, or you could go Mike Edwards out of Kentucky. He's a Kentucky safety. You could give them him.
Go with Edwards.
Mike Edwards for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm looking to see, I'm doing some research on the receivers to make sure all the right players are available. Mike Johnson, Darius West, Mike Edwards. Yes, Mike Edwards is on the board. So I'm seeing where Kelvin Harmon is. If Kelvin Harmon's not on the board, I don't know what I'm going to do here. Maybe I'll go with another receiver. But I'm looking at, yes, Jermaine Pratt, Jacoby Myers, Louisville, Jalen Smith, Garrett Bradbury. There's a lot of North Carolina State players. But Kelvin Harmon is Ryan Finley, Jacoby Myers. I do not see Kelvin Harmon on the board, and I just don't think. Let me see if the Iowa State receiver, Hakeem. No, he's not on the board either. So I'm looking to see what I could do. I want to see if there's another route I can take with the Packers. I could go backup QB. I don't want to go to Marcus Lodge. I don't think he's that good. Hakeem Butler's not on my board. So basically, I'm stuck with Jalen Smith, the Louisville receiver, who's struggled without Lamar Jackson for the Packers. And I know Lisa will literally chop my head off if I take him here, so I'm weighing my options. Porter Gustin, no. Cameron Smith, no. Taylor Rapson, underclassman, nope. Rock Ya-Sin, I could go corner. Ben Bagadoo. Oh, Andy Isabella out of Massachusetts. He's a small guy, 5'10", but he had 200 yards against Georgia, so we'll go with him. The Green Bay Packers with the Saints pick. They get Andy Isabella to wrap up our round 1 Senior Bowl mock draft. And I am going to post this to Facebook just for the hell of it after the show, so people can see our Senior Bowl mock draft and comment on it and just see where the players ended up. Because I think it was a pretty fun experiment, but it was also kind of a disaster.
Oh, everything's a disaster. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to click on
You do not get fun out of order.
Yeah. So Andy Isabella.
Chaos. Discord.
Yeah. So Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith, who was 88 on our board, was the last player clicked who fell to round 2, and then Stidham and Gardner Minshew, the Senior Bowl guys, they go in the second round in this mock, which is actually kind of scary when you put things into hindsight. But that was that, and I'm gonna end the Google Hangout.